on the heels of the deportation of a 2-year-old American fucking citizen, arresting judges, giving Abrego Garcia a life sentence from the Oval Office by Bukele. On the heels of all of this, this might be the most important video I'll ever make in my life. This is what this all comes down to. Curtis Yarvin. Curtis Yarvin fears his authoritarian fantasy is flopping. Curtis Yarvin is the guru of Peter Thiel, J.D. Vance, Ackman, Musk. Get this, advisory. This post will discuss genocide and mass murder. The point, Yarvin sees doom and failure ahead. The accelerated destruction of the United States, the global economy, and the modern liberal democratic order is underway. Yet Curtis Yarvin, Peter Thiel's house philosopher, who has been advocating such extremism for years, is disappointed. The San Francisco software programmer behind the so-called Dark Enlightenment doesn't seem to be enjoying the fruits of his own revolution. In fact, he sees failure ahead. This is a little bit of a backstory. Fear and loathing in D.C. It's April 2025 and April 2025, and President Elon Musk, the CEO dictator of the United States, is busy dismantling government. The demolition comes straight out of Yarvin's playbook, which calls for a CEO dictator to conduct a mass purge of government employees. Though regarded by many as a mere internet troll, Yarvin, who Vice President J.D. Vance affectionately calls a reactionary fascist and often quotes, is now getting his due. His extreme theories on replacing democracy with corporate dictatorship are finally being tested in Washington. The Financial Times, New York Times, and Time Magazine have all paid homage to his role in shaping our current reality. But there's a problem. Yarvin is unfulfilled. Musk's destruction of government apparently does not meet the vaunted Dark Enlightenment guru standards. In fact, he gives all the effort a mediocre grade and says it will likely fail. After 6 weeks, is Trump 47 going well? Is it? It isn't. Frankly, I give it a C. While still far below its potential, it at least has not failed, which is frankly amazing. What is frustrating about this administration is that it has the opportunity to win and the strength to win, but neither, it seems, the will or the understanding to win. So it's going to lose, but it's not yet fated to lose. The key issue? Yarvin doesn't think Musk has the competence to carry out a revolutionary transformation of American government. Not only can Elon not manage an operation on this basis, God himself could not manage it, he writes. These people are so fucking full of themselves. The key issue. Yarvin doesn't think Musk has the competence to carry out the revolution. Unless, this is what Yarvin says, unless the spectacular earthquakes of January and February are dwarfed in March and April by new and unprecedented abuses of the Richter scale, the Trump regime will start to wither and eventually dissipate. It cannot stay at its current level of power, which is too high to sustain, but too low to succeed. It has to keep doing things that have never been done before. As soon as it stops accelerating, it stalls and explodes. Yarvin is a long-winded writer. This paragraph comes from a bloated 7,000-word monstrosity titled Barbarians and Mandarins, published on March 6th. A competent editor would slash it by 90%, maybe more. The essay brims with false dichotomies, logistical inconsistencies, half-baked metaphors, and allusions to genocide. It careens from Romanian tractor factories to Harvard being turned into dust, into quarks, with the coherence of a meth-addled squirrel. Yarvin's fetish for authoritarian governments matches his prose, undisciplined, self-indulgent, and ultimately impotent. But I digress. I love the author of this article, by the way. Analysis. 3 causes of Yarvin's disappointment. Allow me to summarize the whiny gobbledygook in 3 main points. He's upset that Musk Trump aren't being authoritarian enough. While most Americans are shocked by the current administration, Yarvin thinks it's a middling effort. He wants full dictatorship. This is what he says. First, the government needs to be run top-down from the Oval Office. This is why we call it executive branch. Executive is a literal synonym of monarchical, from mono, meaning one, and archy, meaning regime. Autocratic is fine too. The executive branch is the autocratic branch, or should be if English is English. Libs. If these words don't mean what they mean, what do they mean? What a prick. According to Yarvin, power creates power. The more power you use, the more power you have. In his view, half measures are worse than nothing at all. Musk increase the severity of the things that they have never done before, or watch their regime wither and eventually dissipate. The real point, he declares, is to take power from the libs, then keep it. Apparently, Musk and Trump are falling short. Unless the monarch is ready to actually genocide the nobility or the masses, he has to capture their loyalty or, in liberal parlance, obtain their consent. That's just how it works. You're not going to foam these people like turkeys with bird flu, right? That means your only other option is convince them to love you, right? Notice the casual mention of genocide. For good measure, he links to Wikipedia entry for foam depopulation. Foam depopulation, or foaming, is a means of mass killing farm animals by spraying foam over a large area to obstruct breathing and ultimately cause suffocation. It is usually used to attempt to stop disease spread. Yarvin has a penchant for evoking frames of genocide and violence. Even though he looks like a guy who'd surrender his lunch money with nary a whimper, he stops short of calling for literal genocide, but keeps reaching for the language of it. Mass death, institutional purging, systematic annihilation. And he really rarely seems to notice or care just how grotesque that really is. Yarvin has a penchant for evoking more on the next section. He thinks the entire system needs to be cremated and then rebuilt, not reformed. Yarvin has no patience for simple budget cuts and bureaucratic layoffs. He wants total destruction followed by a radical rebuilding, or something like that. DC does not need better policies. It needs a complete reboot, as complete as the denazification of Germany in 1945. For example, every existing institution of science outside the scientists and the lab themselves must be fully cremated in a nuclear autoclave. Again, with the flippant use of violent imagery. First foaming, now crematories. Are we talking about a Holocaust? Yes, Yarvin again uses mass murder metaphor to describe the firing of employees at the National Science Foundation and the NIH. Yeah. Someone in Doge hacked the law. Hacking is good. Taking dramatic actions is good. By realizing that a certain class of administration employees in NSF and NIH, so-called probationary employees, could be legally shot without a trial. A review of unused drainage dishes in Beth Sheeta show an adequate excess capacity. Doge acted. The customer service records show few or no complaints about seepage, odors, etc. Seepage and odors? Not only does Yarvin use a killing metaphor to describe the fates of federal employees, he also fantasizes about them rotting in mass graves. A healthy mind does not do such things, and these regular invocations of death and violence say much about Yarvin. He bathes his brain in the putrefying flesh of imaginary bureaucrats. Oh, and in a positive flaming Freudian backflip, his parents were career federal employees. Yarvin contradicts himself often. For example, he wants everything nuked, buildings included, yet he's oddly miffed that Musk and Trump want to shut down the Department of Education. Why shut down the Department of Education? Do you want to be the one writing the Dear Colleague letters? Doesn't education in the U.S. need to be completely rebooted from kindergarten to university? How else are you going to do that except with the dotted lines that come out of the Department of Education? Apparently, it's very frustrating to be a reactionary fascist theorist without also being a reactionary fascist dictator. If you want authoritarianism done, you must do it yourself. He's learning that revolutionaries make terrible administrators. After years of theorizing about the overthrow of democracy, Yarvin has discovered that turning theory into practice is much harder than it looks. Those of us with experience in government politics already knew this. Getting a single simple change can take years. Overthrowing the entire U.S. government, not a task for the addled, inarticulate amateurs. I have to do a part 2 on this. This is the most important fucking video you're going to watch today. This is why they're deporting 2-year-olds. This is why they're arresting judges. This is why they've upped it. They've escalated. Because our protests are working, and Curtis Yarvin is scared. I'll be right back.